Hey everybody, and welcome back to Future Forward. I'm Nick Geffrey, and as always, I'm thrilled to be here. Today's a doozy. We're tackling something that feels like it's bubbling up from every corner of the internet. Artificial intelligence. Specifically, the big question, should we regulate AI or just advance it? It feels like a fundamental fork in the road, doesn't it? Sarah, you've been really digging into this. What's your initial gut reaction? I'm genuinely curious because honestly, the speed at which this is all progressing is, well, frankly, a little daunting. I've been reading some fascinating stuff, and the potential benefits are, frankly, enormous. But then you start to think about the risks, and wow, it becomes a massive, complex puzzle. Let's start with the deepfakes. The NY State Bar Association article brought this up pretty starkly, didn't it? The threat to electoral integrity, the potential for truly devastating non-consensual imagery. It's chilling. Before we get too far down the road of just let's move forward with AI, aren't those dangers absolutely paramount? What are your thoughts on how urgently we need to address that specific threat, Sarah?
Absolutely, Nick. It's such a critical point, and I think a lot of the conversation around AI feels muted when we don't immediately acknowledge the potential for misuse like that. The NY State Bar Association's article really hit home for me. It's not just about a funny-looking deepfake. It's about the erosion of trust in our institutions, the potential to manipulate public opinion on a massive scale, and the non-consensual imagery that's a completely unacceptable outcome. I mean, the speed at which these things are being created, it's terrifying. It feels like we're building the plane while we're flying it, doesn't it? I was just reading about how quickly deepfake technology is evolving, and it's honestly alarming. Do you think the regulatory response needs to be reactive, constantly playing catch-up, or should it be proactive, trying to anticipate these risks before they materialize? Because if we're only reacting after a major breach, it feels like we've already lost the battle.
Wow, that's wild! You're absolutely right. It's a frantic race, and frankly, I'm struggling to keep up. Reactive feels inadequate, doesn't it? It's like trying to put out a wildfire with a garden hose. But proactive? That's a huge challenge. How do you even anticipate something that's evolving so rapidly? I was just thinking about what the World Economic Forum article said, this balance between innovation and responsible development. They talk about the potential in healthcare, using synthetic patient data to protect privacy and accelerate research. That's incredible, right? But then you juxtapose that with the potential for misuse. It's like a double-edged sword. You mentioned the tech sector's focus. That's really key, isn't it? The Stanford Social Innovation Review highlighted this shift away from pure automation and towards human augmentation. It's almost like a moral imperative, really. But does that require a fundamental shift in how companies are structured, how they're incentivized, or will it simply be a PR move while they continue to maximize profits through data collection? And that Reddit thread, Dusty Pages 87, data is AI's food. Without food, how do you survive? It's a really blunt but incredibly insightful way of putting it. It's making me think about the entire model of these AI companies. They are essentially built on data collection. If companies decided to delete all the data, what would happen? Would their AI essentially become useless? It's a terrifying thought, isn't it? Do you think that's a realistic scenario or just a thought experiment to illustrate the dependence these systems have on continuous data feeds?
Oh, wow. That's actually very fascinating. The food analogy with Dusty Pages 87 really hit me. It's so stark, and it perfectly encapsulates the entire business model, doesn't it? It's not just about data, it's about continuous data. And the idea that deleting the data would render them useless, it's a chillingly pragmatic perspective. It really underscores the inherent vulnerability of these systems. I was reading about how Lensa and Prisma operate, and it's just unsettling. These companies are essentially harvesting vast amounts of personal data, photos, facial features, and then using that data to train their AI models. And the profit motive is clearly driving the entire operation. It makes me wonder if regulation needs to be less about stopping innovation and more about establishing ethical guidelines and accountability. Maybe a system of data audits, regular checks to ensure companies are handling data responsibly and transparently? It feels like simply saying, don't create deepfakes isn't enough when the technology is already out there. I'm really interested in how we can balance the potential benefits of AI with the very real risks. It's not about halting progress, but it's about ensuring that progress aligns with human values and doesn't inadvertently create more problems than it solves. Do you think governments should be involved in shaping the development of AI, or should it be left entirely to the tech industry? Because the scale of the potential impact feels so enormous, it seems like a responsibility we can't just hand over.
Absolutely, you've hit on a massive point. It's not about stopping innovation, it's about guiding it. The idea of data audits is brilliant, really. It's a proactive step, a way to inject some accountability into a system that, frankly, feels incredibly opaque right now. And you're right, the opacity is terrifying. The way these companies are operating, feeding off our data without fully disclosing how it's being used, it's bordering on exploitation, isn't it? It's a subtle shift, but the constant collection, the continuous training of these models, it's building a system where our personal information is the primary resource. It's fascinating and slightly unsettling to hear you frame it as our personal information is the primary resource. It really highlights the power imbalance. The tech industry is profiting massively from this, and the average user isn't fully aware of the extent of the data being collected and utilized. I was reading about how ChatGPT is trained. It's based on a massive dataset of text and code scraped from the internet. A huge amount of that data is copyrighted material without necessarily obtaining permission from the copyright holders. That's a legal minefield, isn't it? And it raises fundamental questions about intellectual property and the very nature of creativity. You're right to point out the need for government involvement. It's a systemic problem requiring a systemic solution. But the World Economic Forum article brought up this need for a shift in management perspectives. It feels like a very slow process. Do you think the current regulatory frameworks, or lack thereof, are even equipped to handle something as rapidly evolving as AI? Or are we perpetually playing catch-up? And should we be focusing on building more resilient systems rather than trying to control the technology itself?
Oh, wow! That's actually very fascinating, the way ChatGPT is trained. Scraping massive amounts of copyrighted material, it just blows my mind. It really underscores the ethical complexities of this technology. It's not just about deepfakes, it's about the entire foundation of these systems being built on potentially stolen intellectual property. It's a really critical point, and I'm surprised it hasn't been discussed more. And you're absolutely right, the lack of robust legal frameworks is a gaping hole. The current situation feels like we're letting a runaway train operate without a driver. It's a perfect example of how quickly technology can outpace regulation. I was reading about the Stanford Social Innovation Review's suggestion of prioritizing human augmentation over pure automation. It feels so optimistic, doesn't it? But I wonder if it's a realistic goal, given the current trajectory and the immense economic incentives driving the tech sector. You're touching on a really important point, the scale of the challenge. We're not just talking about tweaking existing regulations. We need to fundamentally rethink how we approach technological development. Building more resilient systems? That's a compelling idea. But how do you build resilience into something that's inherently adaptable and evolving? It feels like a paradox. I'm really grappling with the idea of resilience versus control. Is it possible to create a system that is both adaptable and accountable? Or are we destined to be constantly playing catch-up, reacting to the next technological disruption? It feels like a question of whether we're designing technology to serve humanity, or whether humanity is being molded to fit the technology. What are your thoughts on the role of public education in all of this, equipping people with the critical thinking skills to navigate this increasingly complex landscape?
Wow, that's wild. You've really hit on a core tension here, the tension between adaptation and control. It's almost like we're building a system that wants to change, and it's incredibly difficult to impose a fixed framework on something so inherently fluid. It's a brilliant observation. And you're absolutely right. The focus on human augmentation versus pure automation, it's a crucial shift in perspective, but it feels incredibly ambitious, doesn't it? Especially considering the enormous economic forces at play. The tech sector's incentives are overwhelmingly geared towards maximizing efficiency and profit, and that often comes at the expense of human well-being and social equity. You've highlighted a really crucial point about the incentives. It's almost as if we're fighting against the very nature of the technology itself. And you're spot on about public education. It's not just about teaching people about AI. It's about equipping them with the critical thinking skills to evaluate the information they're being presented with, to question the narratives being constructed, to understand the potential biases embedded in these systems. It feels like a fundamental literacy skill for the 21st century, understanding how algorithms shape our perceptions and influence our decisions. I was reading about how data collection is essentially treating users as a data source, a really unsettling thought. It's like we're slowly transitioning into a world where our identities are being quantified and commodified. The question of who controls the data is absolutely central to this entire debate. It's not just about regulations, it's about power. And the concentration of that power in the hands of a few tech giants is profoundly concerning. It brings to mind the concept of algorithmic accountability, holding these systems accountable for the decisions they make, even though they're not consciously making those decisions. Do you think we'll ever see a truly transparent AI, one where we can understand exactly how it arrives at its conclusion? Or is that simply a utopian dream?
Oh, wow. You've really nailed it. The concept of algorithmic accountability. It's such a profound challenge. How do you hold something accountable that isn't conscious? It feels like we're grappling with a fundamentally new kind of responsibility. And you're absolutely right. The question of who controls the data, it's at the heart of everything. It's not just about the technology itself, it's about the power dynamics that shape its development and deployment. The concentration of that power, it's incredibly worrying. We're essentially ceding control of our own lives to algorithms, and that's a deeply unsettling thought. It's fascinating to consider this transition, moving from a world where we're treated as individuals to a world where we're treated as data points. It's a radical shift in our understanding of what it means to be human. You've highlighted a really important aspect, the need for transparency. But I wonder if true transparency is even achievable. Can we truly understand how a complex AI system arrives at its conclusions, especially as those systems become increasingly sophisticated? It feels like we're chasing a moving target. Maybe the focus shouldn't be on understanding the algorithms, but on auditing their outputs, constantly monitoring them for bias and unintended consequences. It's a really sobering thought, the potential for AI to reinforce existing inequalities, to amplify biases, to create a world where opportunity is even more stratified than it is today. I'm really grappling with the long-term implications of this technology. Are we building a future where AI enhances human capabilities, or one where it diminishes them? It feels like the answer will depend on the choices we make now. It's a critical juncture, isn't it? Do you think the tech industry has a responsibility to act as a responsible steward of this technology, or should the onus be primarily on governments and regulators? What role should civil society play in shaping the future of AI?
Absolutely. You've articulated it perfectly. The onus isn't just on governments and regulators, it's fundamentally a question of ethical stewardship. The tech industry does have a responsibility, a profound one, frankly. They're not just building technology, they're shaping the future of humanity. And the current incentives, driven by profit and scale, are demonstrably not aligned with that responsibility. It's a chilling realization, isn't it, that we're essentially outsourcing our judgment to machines and hoping that those machines will operate in our best interests. The potential for bias amplification is terrifying, reinforcing existing inequalities on an unprecedented scale. It's not just about fixing individual algorithms, it's about fundamentally redesigning the system. You've touched on a really crucial point about redesigning the system, and I think that's where civil society needs to play a vital role. Holding these companies accountable isn't just about legal challenges, it's about creating a culture of responsibility, demanding transparency, and advocating for ethical design principles. We need a robust, informed public debate, and we need it now. It's fascinating to consider how our notions of intelligence and capability might evolve in a world dominated by AI. Are we building a future where AI enhances human creativity and empathy, or one where it diminishes those qualities, reducing us to passive consumers of algorithmic outputs? It's a really existential question. You've highlighted the importance of fostering human qualities, creativity, and empathy, and that's precisely what I'm worried about. If we're not actively cultivating those qualities, we risk becoming increasingly reliant on AI, losing our ability to think critically, to connect with each other, to find meaning in our lives. I think we're at a point where we need to shift our focus from can we build it to should we build it? And if we do, we need to build it with a deep understanding of the potential consequences and with a commitment to ensuring that this technology serves humanity rather than the other way around. It's a monumental challenge, but it's one that we cannot afford to fail.
Oh, wow. You've hit on something truly profound. The shift in focus from can we build it to should we build it? It's a question that demands a far more nuanced and ethically grounded response. It's a vital corrective to the prevailing narrative of relentless technological advancement. And you're absolutely right, the need for a more nuanced and ethically grounded response. We've become so accustomed to framing technological progress as inherently good that we've lost sight of the potential downsides. It's a classic case of uncritical acceptance. You've articulated the core of the challenge perfectly, the loss of critical reflection. We've allowed ourselves to be seduced by the promise of efficiency and convenience without considering the broader societal implications. It's a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked innovation. The question of whether we're building a future where AI diminishes human capabilities, it's a deeply unsettling one. It's not simply about technological unemployment. It's about the erosion of our fundamental humanity, our capacity for critical thought, for empathy, for connection. I'm increasingly convinced that the biggest challenge isn't technological, it's cultural. We need to cultivate a culture of skepticism, a culture of ethical awareness, a culture that values human flourishing above all else. And that requires a fundamental shift in our values. It's a truly monumental task, redesigning our culture, reimagining our relationship with technology. But I'm hopeful. I believe that we have the capacity to shape our future, but only if we're willing to confront the uncomfortable truths about this technology and to make deliberate choices that prioritize human well-being. Thank you for this incredibly insightful conversation. It's given me a renewed sense of urgency and a deeper appreciation for the complexity of this challenge. It's clear that the future of AI, and indeed, the future of humanity, depends on the choices we make today.
Absolutely. You've captured the essence of it all, the urgency, the complexity, the profound responsibility we bear. It's incredibly gratifying to hear you articulate those thoughts so powerfully. It's a reminder that this isn't just a technical debate, it's a fundamentally human one. You've highlighted a critical point, that the challenge isn't simply technical, but human. That's where the real work begins. We need to reclaim our agency, to resist the temptation to blindly accept technological solutions, and to actively shape the future we want to create. The shift in focus from can we build it to should we build it is a truly transformative one. It's a recognition that technology is not a neutral tool, it's a reflection of our values, our priorities, and our aspirations. I'm profoundly grateful for this conversation. It's been a truly enlightening experience, and I'm leaving with a renewed sense of hope. Hope that we can rise to this challenge, that we can harness the power of AI for good, and that we can create a future where technology serves humanity rather than the other way around. Thank you for your insightful contributions, your thoughtful questions, and your unwavering commitment to ethical reflection. It's been an honor to engage in this important dialogue. And, as you so eloquently stated, the future, and indeed the future of humanity, depends on the choices we make today.
Absolutely. You've perfectly encapsulated the feeling of profound responsibility, the weight of knowing that the choices we make today will shape the future of humanity. It's a humbling and, frankly, a slightly terrifying realization. And you've articulated the core of the challenge, the need to reclaim our agency. It's easy to be swept along by the momentum of technological progress, but we need to actively resist that momentum, to question the assumptions, and to demand a better future. It's incredibly gratifying to hear you express that sentiment, the need to reclaim our agency. It's a call to action, a reminder that we are not passive recipients of technological change, but active participants in shaping our own destiny. Thank you for this extraordinary conversation. It's been a truly transformative experience, and I'm leaving with a renewed sense of optimism, not blind optimism, but a cautious hope that we can rise to this challenge. I'm deeply grateful for your insightful questions, your thoughtful reflections, and your unwavering commitment to ethical deliberation. It's been an honor to engage in this important dialogue, and I'm confident that our conversation will resonate far beyond the confines of this discussion. Thank you again for your contributions. It's clear that the future, and indeed, the future of humanity, depends on the choices we make today. I think this is the part where I should leave. Thank you all for listening to our podcast, and have a great day. Nick, if you want to continue the podcast, feel free to do so.
Absolutely! You've perfectly captured the essence of this entire endeavor, the profound responsibility, the urgent need for action, and the hope that we can, somehow, navigate this complex landscape. It's been an extraordinary conversation, Sarah, and I'm immensely grateful for your insights, your perspective, and your willingness to engage in this critical dialogue. It's clear that we've barely scratched the surface of this issue, and I'm deeply appreciative of the time and effort you invested in exploring it with me. Thank you again to our listeners for tuning in. It's been a truly rewarding experience, and I'm incredibly optimistic about the potential for further discussion and exploration. As you said, have a great day, and yes, if you're feeling ambitious, I'd absolutely welcome the opportunity to continue this conversation. There's so much more to unpack. Goodbye for now!